The battle for Earth began at dawn. Jake Morrison watched from the command center as dimensional tears opened like wounds in space around the planet. Through each opening came parts of the hunger, tentacles of living shadow that reached toward Earth's cities like grasping fingers. The combined human and alien fleets opened fire, but their weapons passed through the hunger like it was made of smoke. Energy beams, missiles, and plasma cannons had no effect on something that existed between dimensions. "Conventional weapons are useless," reported Captain Tracy Johnson from the Explorer. She was leading a mixed squadron of human and alien ships, trying to protect the evacuation vessels fleeing Earth. Admiral Lisa Carter stood rigid at her command post, watching her carefully planned defenses fall apart. "Dr. Rodriguez, any ideas on how to fight this thing?" Dr. Nina Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system from her research ship. "I'm working on it, but the hunger doesn't follow normal physics. It's like trying to shoot at a shadow." The entity seemed to sense their frustration. Parts of it began to solidify, taking on forms that could interact with normal matter. Massive tentacles wrapped around orbital stations, crushing them like toys. The screams of the trapped crews echoed over the communication channels before cutting to silence. But something strange was happening. Instead of just destroying everything, the hunger was being selective. It consumed the crews, but left the stations mostly intact. Jake realized with growing horror what this meant. "It's not here to destroy us," he told Admiral Carter. "It's here to harvest us." The truth became clear as they watched the hunger's attack pattern. The entity was treating humanity like farmers, collecting the crop it had been growing for 40 years. President Frank Miller appeared on the emergency broadcast channel, his face pale and drawn. "Citizens of Earth, this is not how we planned things to end. The entity we partnered with has grown beyond our ability to control." "No kidding," muttered Agent Kelly Brooks from her security station. The president continued, "I'm authorizing Operation Final Dawn. All government officials and essential personnel are to evacuate to the hidden bases in the Centauri system." Felt a surge of anger. Even now, the government was planning to abandon regular people while saving themselves. "Dr. Sarah." Mitchell's voice suddenly crackled over the emergency channel. She was calling from the ruined Titan facility, her voice weak but determined. "I'm still alive in the ruins," Sarah reported. "And I think I found a way to hurt the hunger." "How?" demanded Admiral Carter. "The dimensional gateway technology we built, it works both ways. We've been using it to let the hunger into our reality, but we could reverse the process." "You mean push it back to where it came from?" "Better than that. We could collapse the dimensional fold while it's partially inside. It would trap the hunger between realities, where it can't feed on anything." Tracy Johnson's voice cut in urgently. "Dr. Mitchell, the alien fleets are almost here. If we're going to try this, we need to do it now." Jake watched the tactical display as hundreds of alien warships approached Earth. The Krillthax battlecruisers, ethereal mineships, and Vorthic crystal dreadnoughts formed a massive armada. They had come to destroy humanity, but now they found themselves facing something much worse. Galactic Arbiter Zeethkar's transmission reached the command center. "Human vessels, we are prepared to coordinate our attack. But understand that after we deal with this entity, there will be a reckoning for what your species has done." "One crisis at a time," Admiral Carter replied. The combined fleet launched their assault on the hunger, not to destroy it, but to distract it. While the entity was busy consuming alien ships, Dr. Mitchell worked frantically to reverse the dimensional gateway on Titan, but the hunger was learning. Jake watched in horror as the entity began to adapt to their tactics. It stopped solidifying itself, making it impossible to target. Instead, it focused on consuming the minds of pilots and crew members, turning the ships against each other. "It's using our own people against us," Tracy reported as human ships began firing on their allies. The absorbed crews are still conscious, but under the hunger's control. Dr. Nina Rodriguez made a disturbing discovery while analyzing the hungers. Behavior patterns. The entity isn't just consuming humans randomly. It's selecting specific people. What kind of people? Jake asked. Scientists, engineers, military leaders. It's targeting anyone with knowledge about our technology or defenses. Jake realized what this meant. The hunger wasn't just feeding. It was preparing for something bigger. By absorbing Earth's most knowledgeable people, it was gaining the ability to use human technology. Captain Sam Davis's voice came over the emergency channel from the outer system. Command, I'm seeing something impossible out here. Some of the human ships that disappeared earlier are coming back. That's good news, right? Asked Beth Collins. No, Sam replied grimly. They're coming back under the hunger's control, and they're heading for the remaining human colonies. The terrible truth became clear. The hunger had been planning this for years. Every human it had absorbed, every ship it had consumed, had been preparation for this moment. It now had enough human knowledge and technology to spread across the galaxy without needing humanity's cooperation. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's voice cut through the chaos. I'm ready to collapse the gateway, but I need everyone to pull back from Earth. The dimensional implosion will be massive. What about the people still on the planet? Jake asked. There was a long pause. I'm sorry. Anyone still on Earth when this happens won't survive. Jake looked around the command center. There were still millions of people on Earth who couldn't be evacuated in time. The choice was horrible. Sacrifice those people to stop the hunger, or let the entity consume the entire galaxy. Admiral Carter made the decision that would haunt humanity forever. All ships retreat to minimum safe distance. Dr. Mitchell, initiate the collapse. As the fleet pulled back from Earth, Jake watched the dimensional tiers around the planet begin to destabilize. The hunger seemed to sense what was happening. Its attacks became more frantic, more desperate. But it was too late. The dimensional gateway on Titan imploded, creating a cascade effect that collapsed all the tiers in space around Earth. The hunger's scream echoed across every communication channel as parts of it were trapped between realities. The entity thrashed wildly, trying to escape, but the dimensional collapse held it fast. Slowly, piece by piece, the hunger was pulled back into the void between galaxies, where it had slept for millions of years. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Earth was gone, not destroyed, but transformed. The dimensional collapse had changed the planet into something else, something that existed partially in normal space and partially in the same void where the hunger now resided. The surviving humans found themselves changed too. Those who had been partially absorbed by the hunger retained fragments of its consciousness. They could sense things that normal humans couldn't, think thoughts that weren't entirely their own. Jake looked at his hands and realized he could feel the thoughts of his colleagues. The boundary between individual minds had become blurred. Humanity was no longer fully human. 6 months later, the scattered human survivors established new colonies far from Earth. But they were different now. They moved through space in ships that seemed to flicker between dimensions. They communicated in ways that made other species nervous. The galactic community kept its distance from the changed humans. They had stopped the hunger, but in doing so, they had become something almost as frightening. Captain Tracy Johnson, now leading one of the refugee fleets, sent a final message to the galaxy. Humanity saved you from the monster we created. But the process changed us. We're not the species we used to be. Jake, now serving as liaison to the few alien species that still communicated with humans, often wondered if they had truly won. The hunger was contained, but humanity had paid with their souls. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between stars, he could still hear whispers from the void. The hunger was trapped, but it wasn't dead. And part of it would always be connected to what humanity had become. The galaxy was safe from the ancient entity humans had awakened, but now they had to learn to live with the children of that dark partnership. Beings who were no longer quite human, but not quite something else either. The Draconian fleet was avenged, but the cost of that justice would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The attack began at dawn. Alien ships opened fire on major cities around the world. Buildings exploded into dust. Streets cracked and burned. The Zephyrian weapons were more powerful than anything humans had ever seen. Admiral Krickstall watched the destruction from his flagship. Excellent. Begin landing the harvester units. This should be over within hours. The harvesters were the Zephyrian ground troops. They were tall creatures made of metal and living tissue. Their armor was thick, and their weapons could cut through steel. They had never lost a ground battle. Hundreds of drop pods fell from the sky like metal rain. They crashed into the streets of Chicago, New York, London, and dozens of other cities. The pods opened, and the harvesters stepped out, ready to accept the surrender of another defeated species. But the humans did not surrender. In Chicago, Marine Colonel Ryan Brooks was waiting for them. He had positioned his men in the ruins of downtown buildings. When the first harvester unit marched down Michigan Avenue, his Marines opened fire. The alien armor was strong, but the Marines had prepared. They used armor-piercing rounds and rocket launchers. The first harvester fell, then the second. The aliens had expected scared civilians running away. Instead, they found trained soldiers who knew how to fight. "Sir, this is impossible," said one of the harvester commanders to Admiral Krickstall. "The humans are fighting back. They're actually fighting back." The admiral was confused. Of course some of them are fighting, but they will stop when they see how hopeless it is. But the humans did not stop. They fought harder. Susan Kim was an engineer who had never held a gun before the invasion. Now she was in a basement workshop, building weapons from car parts and chemicals. She had studied the alien armor from pieces that fell during the first attack. She found a weakness. "The joints," she told Billy Cox and his group of volunteers. "Their armor is strong, but the joints between the plates are softer. If we can hit them there with these homemade bullets, we can hurt them." Billy Cox had gathered 20 other veterans in his neighborhood. They were old men who had fought in human wars years ago. Now they were fighting for something bigger than any human war. They were fighting for their species. "Listen up," Billy told his men. "These aliens think we're weak because we're not as advanced as them. They're about to learn that technology isn't everything. Sometimes old-fashioned stubbornness is worth more than fancy weapons." Dr. Elena Ross was trapped in Denver General Hospital with 40 patients who could not be moved. When the harvesters entered the building, she met them in the hallway with nothing but a fire axe and absolute determination. "You want to hurt my patients?" she said, even though the aliens could not understand her words. "You'll have to go through me first." The lead harvester aimed its weapon at her. Dr. Ross swung the axe and somehow managed to damage the alien's weapon arm. The other harvesters were so surprised that a single human had attacked them that they hesitated. That hesitation gave Dr. Ross time to trigger the fire suppression system she had rigged with explosive chemicals. The explosion killed Dr. Ross, but it also destroyed 3 harvesters and gave her patients time to escape to the underground tunnels. Around the world, similar stories were happening. Humans were not acting like any species the Zephyrians had conquered before. Other species fought to survive. Humans fought to protect each other, even when it meant certain death. Captain Amy Turner was still in space with her small fleet of human ships. The alien space fleet was too strong to attack directly, but Amy had a different plan. She used her ships like wolves hunting a bear. They would attack quickly, damage alien supply ships, and run away before the big warships could respond. "Captain, this is crazy," said her weapons officer. "We're just annoying them. We can't win." "We're not trying to win up here," Amy replied. "We're trying to help our people down there. Every alien supply ship we destroy means fewer weapons for the ground troops." After 1 week of fighting, Admiral Crickstall looked at his casualty reports with growing worry. On other worlds, the Zephyrians usually lost less than 100 soldiers during an entire conquest. On Earth, they had already lost over 3,000 harvesters. "Admiral, the humans are adapting to our tactics faster than any species we have encountered," reported his tactical officer. "Every time we develop a new strategy, they find a counter-strategy within days. That's impossible. They're a primitive species. Sir, I don't think they're as primitive as we thought. They may not have our technology, but they have something else. They have an incredible ability to learn and change during combat." The worst part for the Zephyrians was that killing humans did not make the others give up. It made them fight harder. When Dr. Ross died protecting her hospital, the story spread across the resistance networks. Thousands of other humans decided that if she could stand against the aliens with just an axe, they could find ways to fight too. Mike Stone was a construction worker in Detroit. When he heard about Dr. Ross, he decided to use his excavator as a weapon. He waited until a harvester patrol came near his construction site, then used the big machine to crush 2 alien soldiers and damage their transport vehicle. He died in the counterattack, but his actions saved a school full of children. Colonel Brooks was amazed by what he was seeing. "General Hayes, I've been a Marine for 20 years. I've never seen anything like this. Civilians with no military training are fighting like elite soldiers. They're not just fighting to survive. They're fighting like every battle is the most important thing in the universe." General Hayes was coordinating the defense from her bunker. The reports coming in were incredible. "Ryan, I think I understand what's happening. We're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our freedom. And humans have never been good at accepting slavery." President Morrison was still alive, though the aliens thought they had killed him. He was hiding in a secret bunker, but he was not hiding from fear. He was planning. Every day, he sent messages to resistance groups around the world. "My fellow humans," he said in his latest broadcast, "the aliens came here thinking we would be easy to conquer. They thought we would give up when things got difficult. They don't understand that humans never give up. We don't give up on each other, and we don't give up on our freedom." After 2 weeks of fighting, Admiral Crickstall was forced to send a message to the Zephyrian Empire requesting reinforcements. He had never needed reinforcements before. "The human species is proving more resilient than anticipated," he reported. "They do not follow standard behavior patterns for conquered populations. Casualties among our forces are 10 times higher than projected." The Empire's response was swift and angry. "Admiral Crickstall, you are the greatest military commander in our history. How can one primitive planet be causing you such difficulties?" Admiral Crickstall looked at the tactical displays showing human resistance activities across the globe. "I believe we may have underestimated these creatures, sir. They appear to have a psychological trait we have never encountered before. The more pressure we apply, the stronger they become." 3 months had passed since the invasion began. The Zephyrians controlled most of the major cities, but they had paid a terrible price. Their casualty reports showed losses that shocked the Empire. Admiral Crickstall had lost more soldiers on Earth than in his previous 17 conquests combined. "This is unacceptable," came the message from the Zephyrian High Command. "Send detailed reports on why this primitive species continues to resist." Admiral Crickstall did not know how to explain it. The humans should have surrendered after losing millions of people. Instead, they seemed to be fighting with more determination than ever. In the ruins of New York City, Rachel Stone was leading a group of resistance fighters through the underground tunnels. Rachel had been a CI agent before the invasion. Now she was something more dangerous, a human who had learned to think like the aliens. "Matt, show them what you found," she said to Dr. Matt Johnson, a scientist who had been studying captured alien equipment. Dr. Johnson held up a piece of Zephyrian technology. "I figured out how their communication system works. More importantly, I figured out how to jam it. If we can coordinate attacks on their communication towers, we can blind them." Laura Davis, a former Army medic, was examining alien biological samples under a microscope. "Rachel, I think I found something even better. Their biology is completely different from ours. That means diseases that don't hurt us might kill them." Rachel smiled grimly. "Then we're going to give these aliens the worst cold they've ever had." The resistance had evolved far beyond what the aliens expected. Humans were sharing information across continents, developing new weapons, and coordinating attacks with military precision. More importantly, they were inspiring each other. The story that inspired humans the most happened in a small town in Ohio. Nancy Wells was a school teacher who had been trapped in her school with 30 children when the harvesters arrived. The building was surrounded, and there was no way to escape. Nancy could have surrendered and saved herself. The aliens usually didn't kill those who gave up immediately. But she looked at the scared faces of her students and made a different choice. "Kids, we're going to play a game," she said calmly. "It's called Keep the Bad Guys Out. I need all of you to be very quiet and very brave." For 18 hours, Nancy Wells held off 12 harvester soldiers using nothing but school supplies and desperate creativity. She used chemistry lab equipment to make crude explosives. She rigged fire alarms to create painful noise that confused the aliens' sensitive hearing. She turned the school's heating system into a weapon. The aliens could have destroyed the building easily, but they wanted to capture the humans inside alive for study. That gave Nancy time to be creative. Every time the harvesters tried to enter the school, she found a new way to stop them. She used floor wax to make the hallways slippery. She rewired the electrical system to give the aliens painful shocks. She even used the school's lunch food as projectiles, because the aliens' enhanced senses made them extremely sensitive to strong smells. When Captain Amy Turner's space fleet finally arrived to evacuate the area, they found Nancy Wells in the school's main office. She had been shot 3 times, but she was still conscious and still protecting her students. "Did they get out?" she asked Amy's rescue team. "Did my kids get out safe?" "Yes, Mom. All 30 kids are safe because of you." Nancy smiled and closed her eyes. She had bought enough time for the evacuation, but the effort had cost her life. The video footage of Nancy's last stand was broadcast through the Resistance Network to every human settlement on Earth. The effect was immediate and powerful. Humans who had been hiding decided to fight. Humans who had been fighting decided to fight harder. Admiral Kriegstall received reports of uprisings in dozens of cities immediately after the broadcast. "What is this?" he demanded. "Why are they becoming more aggressive after losing one of their leaders?" His xenopsychologist, researcher Vexon, had been studying human behavior since the invasion began. "Admiral, I believe the humans have a psychological trait that is unique in the galaxy. They become stronger when they see examples of sacrifice for others. That makes no sense. Fear of death should make them surrender." "Sir, I don't think humans fear death the same way other species do. They seem to fear slavery and helplessness more than they fear dying." Vexon showed the Admiral video recordings of human behavior during the invasion. "Look at this data. When we kill their leaders, more leaders appear. When we destroy their cities, they fight from the ruins. When we demonstrate our superior firepower, they find ways to use our own weapons against us. The researcher pointed to a graph showing human resistance activity over time. Sir, our invasion is making them stronger. Every day we fight them, they become better at fighting us. This was exactly what was happening. Colonel Ryan Brooks had transformed from a simple Marine commander into a master of guerrilla warfare. His forces had learned to move through cities like ghosts, appearing to attack alien patrols and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Susan Kim had become the Resistance's chief weapons designer. Her homemade guns could now punch through Harvester armor. Her improvised explosives could destroy alien vehicles. Most importantly, she had learned to build these weapons from materials found in any human city. Billy Cox's group of old veterans had grown into an army of civilian fighters. They taught other humans how to set ambushes, how to gather intelligence, and how to hit the aliens where they were weakest. President Morrison was still alive and still leading the global resistance. From his hidden bunkers, every week he sent out radio messages that reached humans around the world. My fellow humans, he said in his latest broadcast, the aliens came here thinking we were weak. They thought our cities and our technology were the source of our strength. They were wrong. Our strength comes from something they cannot see or understand. Our strength comes from our refusal to let others decide how we should live. Captain Amy Turner had turned her small space fleet into a constant threat to alien operations. Her ships were like mosquitoes attacking an elephant, but mosquitoes that carried very powerful stings. Every alien supply convoy had to be heavily guarded because Amy's forces might appear from anywhere, but the most important change was happening in the hearts of individual humans. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the scientist who had first translated the alien ultimatum, was now leading a secret research facility. He had made an incredible discovery about Zephyrian biology. They're not as advanced as they pretend to be, he told his team. Their technology is impressive, but their biology has weaknesses. They've been using technology so long that their natural immune systems are almost non-existent. Lavra Davis had been working with Dr. Walsh to develop a biological weapon that could target the alien nervous system. If we can get this into their air supply, it won't kill them, but it will make them very sick. Sick enough that our conventional weapons might be able to hurt them. The resistance was becoming something the Zephyrians had never faced before. It was not just an army or a government. It was an entire species that had decided to never give up. Admiral Krickstall requested an emergency meeting with the High Command. Honored leaders, I must inform you that our standard conquest protocols are not working on this world. The humans are not behaving like any species we have conquered before. Explain. Sir, they are becoming more effective fighters as time passes. Their resistance is not weakening, it is growing stronger. I believe we need to consider a different approach. The response from the High Command was cold and angry. Admiral Krickstall, you will complete this conquest. The Empire has never failed to conquer a world, and we will not start now. Use whatever force is necessary. But Admiral Krickstall was beginning to understand something that the High Command did not. The Zephyrians were not fighting an army or a government. They were fighting something much more dangerous. They were fighting a species that would rather die than surrender. 6 months into the war, the Zephyrian Empire faced something it had never experienced before, a military stalemate. 3 more fleets had arrived to help Admiral Krickstall, but the human resistance had grown stronger faster than the alien reinforcements could arrive. The humans had learned to fight in ways that confused and frightened the Zephyrians. They did not fight like a normal army with clear command structures and predictable tactics. They fought like a living organism that could adapt and change faster than the aliens could respond. Dr. Kevin Walsh was working in a secret laboratory built in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Chicago. His team had made a breakthrough that would change the war. After months of studying captured Zephyrian soldiers, they had found the aliens' greatest weakness. "Tom, look at this," Dr. Walsh said to Tom Baker, a former NASA engineer who had joined. "The resistance. The Zephyrians have been using biological enhancement technology for so long that their natural immune systems have almost completely disappeared." Tom studied the data on his computer screen. "So if we can get past their artificial immune systems, ... Exactly. I've developed a virus that specifically targets their nervous system. It won't kill them, but it will make them very sick and confused. Sick enough that our weapons can hurt them." Tom had been working on his own project. "Kevin, I think I can do you one better. I figured out how their energy shields work. They're designed to stop fast-moving objects, like bullets and missiles. But they can't stop slow-moving objects that vibrate at the right frequency." "What kind of slow-moving objects?" Tom held up a device that looked like a simple metal tube. "Sonic grenades. They move slowly through the air, but when they get close to the aliens, they emit sound waves that disrupt the shields from the inside." The resistance had become incredibly organized. Rachel Stone was now coordinating intelligence networks across 3 continents. Her people had infiltrated alien communication systems and were gathering detailed information about Zephyrian military plans. "We know when they're going to attack, where they're going to attack, and how many soldiers they're sending," she told Colonel Brooks during a secret meeting in the ruins of Detroit. "But more importantly, we're learning how they think." Colonel Brooks had been promoted to overall military commander of the global resistance. His army was no longer just Marines and soldiers. It included teachers like Nancy Wells, doctors like Elena Ross, engineers like Susan Kim, and ordinary people like Billy Cox, who had decided to become extraordinary. "What have you learned about how they think?" he asked Rachel. "They don't understand." "Sacrifice," she replied. "Their whole society is based on efficiency and logic. They can't comprehend why someone would die to protect others. That's their weakness." Lavra Davis had been working with resistance cells around the world to distribute the biological weapon Dr. Walsh had developed. "We're calling it Operation Fever," she told the assembled leaders. "We'll release the virus simultaneously in 50 cities. It won't kill the aliens, but it will make them vulnerable." President Morrison had remained hidden for months, but now he was ready to reveal himself. The resistance had grown strong enough to protect him, and his leadership was needed for what came next. "My fellow humans," he said in a global broadcast. That reached every resistance cell on Earth. 6 months ago, aliens came to our world thinking we would be easy to conquer. They thought our cities and our weapons were what made us strong. They were wrong. The broadcast was being transmitted from a hidden bunker, but the signal was being amplified by resistance networks around the world. Every human settlement could hear their president's voice. "Our strength does not come from our buildings or our technology. Our strength comes from something the aliens cannot understand. We fight not just to survive, but to remain free. We fight not just for ourselves, but for each other. And we will never, ever give up." Captain Amy Turner had turned her space fleet into a major threat to alien operations. Her ships were no longer just annoying the alien fleet. They were actually winning battles. Using Tom Baker's sonic weapons and Dr. Walsh's biological agents, her forces had captured several small alien ships. "Captain, we've learned to pilot their vessels," reported her chief engineer. "The control systems are different from ours, but we can figure them out. More importantly, we can use their own ships against them." Amy smiled as she looked at the captured alien vessel docked next to her station. "Then it's time to give Admiral Krickstahl a real surprise." The aliens were discovering that humans had an ability they had never encountered before. Humans could learn from their enemies, and adapt faster than any species the Zephyrians had ever fought. Every alien weapon that was captured was studied, understood, and improved upon. Every alien tactic that was used was analyzed and countered. Susan Kim had become the Resistance's chief technology officer. Her workshops were hidden in basements and caves around the world, building weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology. Her latest creation was a gun that fired Tom Baker's sonic rounds through alien energy shields. "The aliens have better technology than us," she told her team of engineers and scientists, "but technology is just tools. We have something more important than tools. We have imagination." Billy Cox's group of veterans had trained thousands of civilian fighters. They had learned that age and physical strength were not the most important things in this war. The most important thing was the willingness to never give up. "Listen, son," Billy told a young man who had joined his group. "The aliens are stronger than us, faster than us, and they have better weapons than us. But they have never fought anyone like us before. They've never fought people who get more stubborn the harder things get." Admiral Crickstall was receiving reports that would have been impossible to believe 6 months earlier. Human forces were not just resisting, they were advancing. They had begun attacking Zephyrian bases and winning. "Sir, the humans have somehow learned to use our own weapons against us," reported his tactical officer. "They're piloting captured ships, using modified versions of our technology, and they're employing tactics we've never seen before. How is this possible? They're a primitive species." "Admiral, I don't think they're primitive. I think they're something else entirely. They're a species that becomes more dangerous the longer you fight them." Researcher Vexon had been studying human psychology for months. His reports were disturbing to the Zephyrian command. "Admiral, the humans have a psychological trait that makes them nearly impossible to defeat through conventional means." "Explain." "Sir, most species fight to avoid death and suffering. Humans fight to protect their freedom and each other. When you threaten what they love, they don't become weaker, they become stronger. When you kill their leaders, more leaders appear. When you destroy their cities, they fight from the ruins." Admiral Crickstall looked at the tactical displays showing human resistance activities across the globe. Red dots marked every location where humans were actively fighting his forces. There were thousands of red dots. "Researcher Vexon, are you telling me that this species becomes more powerful the more pressure we apply to them?" "Yes, sir. And there's something else. They're learning to fight us faster than we can learn to fight them. Every day they understand. Our weakness is better while we understand their strengths less." The Admiral realized he was facing something the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered before. He was not fighting a government or an army. He was fighting an entire species that had decided to never surrender, no matter how hopeless things seemed, and the humans were no longer hopeless. They were becoming dangerous. 1 year after the invasion began, Admiral Crickstall stood in his command center staring at reports he could barely believe. The Zephyrian Empire was losing. For the first time in their history, they were being defeated by a species they had thought was primitive. The human resistance had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They had not just survived the invasion, they had turned it around. Human forces were now attacking Zephyrian bases across the planet and winning. Captain Amy Turner commanded a fleet of 50 ships, half of them captured and modified alien vessels. Her forces controlled Earth's orbital space and were actively hunting down the remaining Zephyrian fleet units. "Admiral Crickstall, this is Captain Turner of the Human Liberation Fleet," came the message over the alien communication system. "We have your supply ships surrounded. Surrender now, and your crews will not be harmed." Admiral Crickstall could not understand how this had happened. A year ago, the humans had no space fleet at all. Now they were giving him ultimatums. On the ground, Colonel Ryan Brooks was leading the final assault on the main Zephyrian command base in what used to be New York City. His army was a mixture of professional soldiers, civilian volunteers, and captured alien equipment operated by humans who had learned to use it better than the aliens themselves. "All units, this is Colonel Brooks," he said into his radio. "Today we take back our planet. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember Nancy Wells. Remember Elena Ross. Remember every human who died to keep us free." The attack was coordinated across 6 continents simultaneously. Human forces had learned to fight with precision that amazed even themselves. They struck alien communication centers, supply depots, and command facilities all at the same time. Dr. Kevin Walsh's biological weapon had worked perfectly. Zephyrian soldiers across the planet were suffering from the virus that attacked their nervous systems. They were confused, disoriented, and vulnerable to human weapons for the first time since the invasion began. Tom Baker's sonic weapons had neutralized the aliens' greatest advantage, their energy shields. Human forces could now fight the Zephyrians on equal terms, and when the fight was equal, humans had advantages the aliens had never expected. Susan Kim had become the head of human military technology. Her workshops had produced thousands of hybrid weapons that combined human creativity with alien science. More importantly, she had trained an entire generation of human engineers to think beyond the limits that had once seemed impossible. Aliens thought their technology made them superior, she told her team as they prepared the final assault weapons. They forgot that technology is just a tool. The intelligence that uses the tool is what matters. Rachel Stone had infiltrated the alien command structure so thoroughly that human forces knew about Zephyrian battle plans before some alien commanders did. Her intelligence network had grown into something that spanned the entire planet. "Colonel Brooks, we have confirmation," she reported. "Admiral Kriegstall is in the main command bunker. If we can capture him, the remaining alien forces will have no central leadership." President Morrison had emerged from hiding to lead the final phase of the liberation. He stood in the rebuilt White House, surrounded by the leaders who had kept humanity alive during its darkest hour. "My fellow humans," he said in what would be his most famous speech, "1 year ago, aliens came to our world thinking we would be easy to conquer. They thought our technology was primitive. They thought our military was weak. They thought we would surrender when things became difficult." The speech was being broadcast to every human settlement on Earth and to the alien forces as well, translated into their language so they could understand what they had really been fighting. The aliens were wrong about everything. They were wrong about our technology. We learned to use theirs better than they could. They were wrong about our military. We turned every human into a soldier. Most importantly, they were wrong about our spirit. They thought we would give up. They didn't understand that humans never give up when we're fighting for our freedom. The final battle for the alien command base was unlike anything in galactic history. Human forces attacked with a combination of advanced alien technology and simple human determination. They fought through energy barriers using sonic weapons. They overcame superior numbers through superior tactics. They won because they refused to lose. Admiral Kriegstall found himself trapped in his command bunker as human forces fought their way through his defenses. His remaining soldiers were sick from the human virus and confused by human tactics they had never encountered before. "Sir, we should evacuate," urged his tactical officer. "The humans have broken through our outer defenses." "No," the admiral said quietly. "I need to understand what happened here. I need to understand how we lost to a primitive species." The bunker doors exploded inward. Human soldiers poured in, led by Colonel Brooks himself. The aliens raised their weapons, but they were too weak and disoriented to fight effectively. Within minutes, Admiral Crickstall was a prisoner. Dr. Kevin Walsh was the first human scientist to interview the captured alien leader. What he learned changed everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy. "Admiral, we need to understand something," Dr. Walsh said through a translation device. "Your empire has conquered 17 worlds. Why were we different?" Admiral Crickstall looked at the human scientist with something like wonder in his alien eyes. "We studied your species. Before we arrived, we thought we understood you. We were completely wrong. What did you think you understood? We thought you were like every other species we had conquered. We thought you would fight to avoid death. We thought you would surrender when the cost became too high." Dr. Walsh leaned forward. "And what did you learn about us?" "You don't fight to avoid death," the Admiral said slowly. "You fight to protect your freedom. You fight to protect each other. And you would rather die than surrender. Those things?" The interrogation continued for hours. What Admiral Crickstall revealed shocked the human leaders. Every other species the Zephyrians had conquered had surrendered after losing 5 to 10% of their population. The humans had lost over 40% of their population and had only fought harder. "Your species has something we have never encountered before," the Admiral told President Morrison during their final meeting. "You have the ability to become stronger under pressure instead of weaker. Every time we hurt you, you found ways to hurt us back. Every time we took something from you, you found ways to take more from us." President Morrison looked at the alien leader who had once seemed so powerful and threatening. "Admiral, we tried to surrender at the beginning. You wouldn't accept it. You wanted to make us slaves. That's when you made your biggest mistake." "What mistake?" "You tried to take away our freedom. And humans will do anything at all, to stay free." The remaining Zephyrian forces on Earth surrendered within days of their admiral's capture. The alien ships in orbit began withdrawing from the planet, but Captain Amy Turner's fleet followed them to make sure they left and never returned. Admiral Crickstall's final message to the Zephyrian Empire became legendary among human historians. Mark this world as Forbidden's territory. We did not encounter a primitive species. We encountered humanity. They have shown us that some things are worth dying for. They fight not just to survive, but to remain free. They are what we could never be, and what we should never again challenge. The war was over. Earth was free. But the victory had cost humanity nearly half its population and most of its cities. The survivors began the long work of rebuilding, but they rebuilt with the knowledge that they had proven something important to the galaxy. Human beings could not be conquered. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they possessed something more powerful than weapons or technology. They possessed the absolute refusal to surrender their freedom to anyone, no matter the cost. President Morrison gave one final speech as the last alien ship disappeared from Earth's sky. "We have learned something about ourselves this year. We learned that when someone threatens everything we love, we become more than we ever thought we could be. We become unconquerable." The galaxy would remember Earth not as the world that was easy to conquer, but as the world that taught the universe what freedom really means. And in the years that followed, when other species faced their own struggles against oppression, they would remember the humans who chose to fight rather than surrender. And they would find the courage to do the same. Admiral Crickstall spent the rest of his life trying to explain to the Zephyrian Empire what he had learned on Earth. The lesson was simple but profound. There are some species in the universe that cannot be conquered, not because they are too strong, but because they are too free to ever accept slavery. Earth seemed easy to conquer, but the aliens learned the truth. Some things are worth more than life itself, and humans will fight for those things until the very end.